Yeah, like I was saying, let me put you up here. So I couldn't, with this motor being pushed forward, I have to support this pulley, and that would cut into there. So I was going to 3D print something, but I thought, well, that's going to take forever. I don't really need. So I'll just make another one of these. And I figured, well, since I'm going to make another one, I might as well make one out of aluminum. That way it's a little stronger, because when I raise that motor up, the thickness on here is about 90 thousandths. So that might flex a little bit. I'm not sure. So anyway, I made one out of aluminum. And of course, it has its... Then it comes another set of problems. But I'll get into that in a minute. Okay, these four holes, or these four half circles, that's nothing. What this piece was this was a piece of plate that I found in the scrap bin, and it had four holes in it. And I thought, well, I could use this plate, because these four holes won't interfere with anything. So this piece was the right size. Actually, it was a little bit longer. And I thought, well, those four holes that were there, I'm not going to worry about it. So I cut this plate, and I was able to work around those four holes. This piece in the back is an adjustment. Now, this is a piece of 8mm shaft, and this is just a little bushing I put in there. Now, what I'm going to put in there is this, I got this needle roller bearing. When I ordered these parts from, SDP, I ordered this pulley, ordered this pulley, ordered the needle bearing, ordered a couple belts, and you got to get the order above $30, or else they charge you an extra $10. But I had like $50 worth of stuff I bought, so I wasn't worried about it. But I didn't want to put this needle bearing in there, but I did put two holes in here so I could drive that bearing out if I had to. But rather than put the needle bearing in there, I just made a little bushing to hold this in place. And I cut a keyway in there. And there's a little piece of brass stock. It's a 3mm that goes in there. So I broached a key in there. Well, the original one, it has a boss on it. The original one has a boss on it like this one. So what I do is I milled that boss away. So I milled that off. And I did the same thing with this one. It had a boss on it too. So I milled that boss. And the reason I did that was because I needed to keep this as thin as possible to fit underneath the table. I got a little bit of room in there, and I need to keep that thin. So I put keyway in here. I broached the keyway in here. I broached the keyway in this one. This is the 13. This was the original one that I had here that I made this adapter for. If you saw the other video, that's what that was. And then this feeds into that outer ring. So moving the motor forward, I can't put this in here anymore because now it's too close to the outer ring for my for the belt to go around. See, this would go here and this would go here, and it's too close. Plus the fact that, you know, I had to drive this 3-to-1. So what I'm doing now is I'm putting this on here, and that just fits on that shaft. I might have those set screws down a little too tight. But that's going to fit on there like that. Now I had to undercut this because now the belt, when it comes out of here, it's not going to be able to ride. These 4 holes that were here for the motor, the belt would ride right where those screws go, because now it's going to feed into the back like that. So I just made that little bushing so I could put this in there. So now this one goes in the back. And I had to bore these out 8mm. So that one's going to go in the back. And this one's going to ride on top of it. So I put the keyway in there because I need both of these to turn the same. There's nothing that turns them from the bottom. What turns it is this one. So these are going to be locked together with that key. And what's going to happen here, I don't have this bushing all the way down, so this is a lot higher than it's supposed to be because I made that kind of snug, and I don't want to put it in there because I won't be able to get it out. Even though I got those 2 pins in there, I can knock it out. Those 2 holes, I can knock it out, but I don't want to go through the trouble of pushing it all the way down just to knock it out. So I just left it a little bit high. I was going to sand it, but it's not that important. So what's going to happen is one of these belts is going to go here, and it's going to drive that, and then that's going to be a 3-to-1 reduction on there, and then the original 13 tooth is going to, there's a belt here that this goes against. That's going to go around those pulleys like before. There's going to be one on this side and one on that side. So this belt is going to go around them, and drive that big gear on top. So it's going to give me a 3-to-1 plus the reduction from this 13 to the other one, which isn't much because, I mean, it sounds like a huge reduction, this 13 to that big ring gear, but there's a lot of resistance there. It's not like this is going to a ring gear and it's freewheeling. There's a lot of resistance there. Even though it did rotate it, I want to be able to rotate it better. So this is the system I'm going to try to use. So I got these adjustments on here because this one is going to adjust. This one's going to adjust. When I got that belt on there, it goes to that big ring gear. This is going to be the adjustment for that. Then once that's locked in place, the 4 screws that were originally here, I was going to be able to move this and make the adjustment on this belt. But what I found out was that when this belt comes through here, it's going to hit those 4 screws. So I'm going to put it on the inside of there. And that's why I had to turn this diameter down, because the belt's going to ride inside of there. And I'm not using those 4 bolts anymore to hold that motor. What I did was I made a little clamp here, just a spacer, another spacer, and a plate on the bottom. And when you loosen these screws, you can adjust that motor. So I still have the motion to adjust this motor. I just got to use these instead of those, which is fine. But I think it'll work. And I had to undercut this piece here. I don't know if you can see it, because when this is sitting inside of here, this area here is where that other motor is, and it would hit. This originally wasn't designed for this setup, so I had to modify everything, just trying to make it work. See, the motor, the original motor, goes in here, and the top of the motor, when it's all the way up, is even with the top of this piece here. And I had to cut this away to accommodate this piece, but I had to trim this off because that's how close it is to the top of that motor right there. Now, of course, you know, if I had to design it over, I could have taken this motor and dropped it down, you know, another 1/8 inch, and it wouldn't have made a bit of difference. But I gotta work with what I got, and this is what I'm using to figure out how to make this thing work, and work pretty good. So once I figure out what I need to make this work as good as I want it to work, then we'll go back and have to fix the model. Of course, it's getting to the point where it's going to be really hard to fix the model because there's so much in there that I got to modify. It might be better just to make another one. I don't know. So I had to cut all this, had to cut that. to accommodate this motor. So that's going to fit like this other one, basically the same. But you see how much more I had to move this up. But this is a stronger piece. I mean, I don't foresee, I mean, that's a piece of 1/4 inch, and I don't foresee ever using the strength of the 1/4 inch. I mean, it probably could have been 3/16, and that would have been fine. But you see how much I had to raise that motor up to clear that gear that's going to go in there. I don't know if you can see that. And the back here is, so I had to cut that back a little bit to clear that. Of course, it's really hard to get when you're cutting this stuff, sometimes you don't have to cut as much as you want. I mean, I probably didn't have to cut that much, but, I'd rather cut a little more, and because you can't, it's really hard to fit it. I mean, you could fit it, but, I haven't got all day to sit there and take a cut, try it, take a cut, try it. I just go in there and hog it out, and it'll work. So that was the piece on the top. Like I said, we're going to put this gear here. That's pretty tight fit. Had to use the reamer on that. That's a precision piece of 8mm shaft. Really hard to get that on there. Then, like I said, that's going to go on there, and that's going to go on there. Oh, that's going to work. But anyway, that's that part of it. So for this piece here, I made this insert. See, since I cut this away with the Dremel tool, that Dremel tool, that's basically a must-have tool. So I'm gonna epoxy this in here. I made these little pulleys this morning. I just got them on a piece of, what was it, 832 panhead screws right there. I'm going to epoxy that in there. And this other piece is where the shaft is going to go. I got to cut a little clearance there. And then this little piece is going to go here in the front, because I still got to have the belt to ride on that surface there. I can't have a gap in there because the belt will come in there and it won't follow that radius. So it's got to follow this guide. This edge is a guide for that belt. Now how I how I got that to match up is I had to take the diameter here, which was 6" 600, and I cut this piece out. I don't know, what is that, 1/8 inch or whatever it is. So since this is all gone, there's nothing here, I have to have something to bank against so I know where that radius is for that belt to ride on. So I just cut this out of a piece of material, and what this does is just fits in there. And now I have the original guide as to where the original radius is. This radius is 6" 600, so I just lay that in there, and now I have the, like I said, the original radius that's supposed to be there. Of course, if I had this printed new, I would put that in there, but since I had to modify it, I had to cut all that away, and this area up here is where the original piece was, and these two holes here, I don't know if you can see them. There's two round circles here. That's where the original rollers were for that belt. Yeah, it was a lot of work, but we get it figured out. So I had to make new bushings for it. In fact, I just did that this morning. Made new bushings to go in here, and new bushing to go in here. So what I did to get this, to figure out what this was, of course, you know, this goes up here, and then this piece goes on top here. So in order to get that location, I had to set that up on the machine. I put a couple stops against here, a couple 5/8 stops, put them in the ways of the machine. I clamped it down, and I picked up, well, I had to do each one individually. So I went to the CAD model, and I could have picked up any of these circles, but what I do is I picked up this edge here and this edge here, and I came over this distance, and I ran a 3/8 end mill in there, and I did the same thing with this one. Put a couple of 5/8 pins here, clamped it down, came over with a 3/8 end mill, put it through there, because I had this piece bolted on the back of there. So I took a long 3/8 end mill, put it through there, and then when I put it together, you hope that it all matches, and it was really close. It was pretty good. So this piece, like I said, goes on there, and then this hole is for one of these bushings, and then the bushing in the back is this one. So I ended up making them just a little bigger by using the 3/8 end mill. I put it through there, and like I said, there was a little mismatch. You know, I expected a mismatch. I didn't expect it to be perfect. So there was a little mismatch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place these bushings where they're supposed to go. And then I bought this, now this was 3/8 with a 14 thousandths wall, or 17 thousand, somewhere around there, whatever it was. But the piece that fits inside of here is this 11/32, I think it was. Yeah, 11/32. Got that at Ace Hardware. But I'm going to use this piece. When I put this together and before I epoxy it, like I said, I got this bushing on one side, this bushing on the other side. And what happens is they fit in here. So I can't put this in there to epoxy it because you don't know where it is. It doesn't, you need a true location. So what I'm going to do is I got this 11/32 and I'm going to run this through there. And this will line it up because I'll put this 3/8 on both sides of the bushings. So that'll line that up through all the holes that are in here. And then I'll glue it, well, epoxy it. And that'll give me a good location. So I had to sand that down because it was a little tight in there. And I wanted a little bit of play. Not much, but a little bit. And the other thing was I had to sand it down to fit this pulley, because this pulley's got to line up too. So what this pulley does, not only did I used the this piece on the top 3-to-1, but I thought, well, since I'm going through all this trouble, I might as well do something with the one on the side too. So what I did here was, like I said, this piece goes in there. This was originally here and I moved it over here. And then the belt would come around here. And I thought, well, let me upgrade that too. So I got this 10 here, 10 teeth here. So I bought this 20-tooth pulley. And I turned this back, took the hub off of this one. Originally, there was a hub on here, and I was going to cut a groove in there, and I was going to put a flat here, and then put them two together, and that way to lock it together. And the more I thought about it, I thought, well, you know, I'll just press that on there. That's as far as it goes. And then it's got a little press fit on there. I'll just press that on there, and then it'll be done with it, you know. So in order to, so I thought, well, let me upgrade that too. So now I'm going to make that 2-to-1. So this is the pulley that goes on the motor shaft. So I'm going to put that, actually it goes this way. This piece here rides in a bushing here. So I thought, well, so now, that was the other belt I bought. So now I moved it from here to here. So I thought, well, let me upgrade that. So I put a 10-to-20 on here. So now I got a reduction in here. So that'll help scoot it along a little bit, a little easier on the motor. Even though it worked, I want it to work a little better. These motors are pretty small. not very big. So I didn't want to strain them. So I got the room. So I thought, well, I might as well make it a little easier on the motor, because I want this thing to last. It's not just to, use it a couple times. Hopefully use it for quite a long time. But, so that's going to go in there. Now, of course, I could turn that diameter down, but you're not going to be able to take too much off, so I just left it alone. And next time, go in there and build this piece around it, act like a little cover. But for now, that's what we're looking at. So we got a little reduction going on there too. Now I didn't do this originally because I wanted to keep it simple, just to make sure it works. So now that I know it works, I can make it a little better. I'm trying to make it better so I don't have to print another one of these until I get some kind of final or semi-final kind of idea on what I want to do. I know if I print another one of these, it's quite time consuming. And I want to get as close as I can to something that's going to work before I print another one. So I had to take a little bit of material off of this side too, because this pulley, it's got these flanges on it. So I had to recess this one a little bit deeper, and I had to reset that because the original one just went from this gear to another gear, and they were both the same, and they rode in this well, it's not a track, but the depth of here was the width of the belt, so that kept it aligned. Plus there was no place for it to go. I mean, it was captured between this piece and this piece, so there was no place for that belt to go. And I probably could have done the same thing with this one, but it didn't hurt to, I didn't want to have to take these flanges off, and I don't really want to cut them down, so it was just easy just to recess that just a little bit. Now you see the bushing's going to go in there. It's going to ride that. See, that sticks out quite a bit. But we could make we could put a cover over that. Not a cover, but when we reprint this, we could cover that up. So I'm not too concerned about that. But that should give me a little more, I won't say horsepower on the motors, but make it easier for the motors to work. Now, last time I did this, it made quite a bit of noise, and a lot of that was because of this pulse generator. This is what I'm going to use to rotate this. I want to do that manually. I don't want to use the Arduino. But I hooked this up to both motors last time. I did it on the top to rotate it. Then I hooked it to the side motor to rotate it this way. And that made quite a, that's the noise you hear. But I ordered the electronics for the top piece so I could put the program in there and rotate it. And I have the stuff to make this work. Little motor controller and the power supply. That's how I did it last time. So I think it's looking pretty good. I just got to get this the these new pulleys installed. I got to epoxy them in and epoxy this in and epoxy this in, and then I got to make it fit that gear. But it looks like it's going pretty good. I mean, it takes a while, you know. You got to do this, you got to do that. All right. Talk to you later.